We're live on Spiritual Psychics TV with Paul Bannister and his guests for Spiritual Talk.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SPTV with Spiritual Talk. Hi, everyone. It's good to be back. I'm back from my holidays, but I'm back. Well, I'm really glad to be back, but I'm back with another fantastic guest. If you missed our interview last week, 2 weeks ago with Dayna Louise, please feel free to pop onto YouTube at SPTV or on Facebook as well. You can connect through there. Please share or subscribe. We love it when you support us. We love it when you're there. Let us know your comments as well. We love your feedback and any interesting ideas. So come in, say hello. Where else would you want to be on a Thursday evening at 6 o'clock? Put down your tea and come and say hello to us, guys. We're also going to be doing a little bit of, well, hopefully a few messages. And tonight's guest is coming in from a very long way, and we really appreciate her coming in this evening because she's coming in from the other side of the world and it's very, very late there. But before we bring our lovely guest in, we're going to try and say a few hellos. So let us know wherever you are. I know some people are already watching. I want to say hello to Paul and Luke Cook. Hello to Claudette. Hi, and good afternoon to you. Let us know where you're coming in from as well, because we like to know that we're international. Susan Robin, good evening. Hello. And Melanie Wellens. Hi, everyone. She's put on there. And Joanne Lewis. Hi. How are you doing? Hi, Sir Richard. Did you hear that? She's just called you Sir. That is apparently that's his correct title. Hello, Gabby Sanchez. Good to see you. Glad you're joining us. And Rain Clouds. Hello from Washington State. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Chris Lanham. Hi, Chris. And you're coming in from Michigan in the US. That's fantastic. And Lynn, hi Lynn. She's coming in from Croydon, great part of the world. And Krish, hi Krish. Hope you're well. Hi Richard and the SPTV family. And we've also got another great program coming up tonight. We'll talk a little bit about that before we go. Hi Paula, coming in from Northumberland. And also we've got Michelle. Hi Michelle. Oh, she's in New Jersey. Thank you for joining us. And we've got Arlene. Hi Arlene. She's coming in from Dundee in Scotland. I was up there recently. Beautiful country, beautiful part of the world. And hi Susie. She's coming in from Canada. Hi Susie Pico. Great place. Yeah. So we're going to bring in our guest now. And tonight we have the amazing Dayna Louise Tierney. Dayna is a evidential medium working internationally. She's also a spiritual poet, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get Dayna in. Say hello. Hi Dayna, how you doing?
Hi Paul, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's, you know, all the thanks in the world for coming in. Is it 3:30 in the morning, did you say?
3 o'clock, 3 a.m.
3 o'clock, 3 a.m. in the morning over there and you're in a place called Dubbo, New South Wales.
It's actually pronounced Dubbo, New South Wales.
Dubbo. Well, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do first, before we go into a little bit about your story?
Okay, so I'm a spiritual evidential medium, and I also do healing work as well. So I am trained in a number of different modalities, and combine those usually on the need of the client in front of me, intuitively what I feel they need at the time. Predominantly I'm doing readings, and I do service outlying regions as well. But since COVID, a lot of that work went online as well, and I continue on with that. So, and I think the international community opened up during those moments. So in some ways, it was a little blessing for me to be united with other mediums in different workshops and trainings, and then, of course, doing some readings as well.
Absolutely. I'm just going to say a few more hellos as well. Dayna Louise has put, looking great for 3 a.m. She said.
There's a lot of paint that went into this, Joanne. Oh, thank you.
And Rain Cloud said the same. She said, hi, Dayna. And also, Minnie, love the red lipstick.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And Kim's put, she's put from Clevedon in southwest, in the southwest. Great. Thank you for joining us, guys. It's lovely to see you all here tonight. And I'll quickly just say hello to Kathleen as well, because she's coming in from Eastern Tennessee in the US.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Dayna, can you just tell us a little bit about how you started into mediumship? And before I go into that, I'm just going to ask our listeners, there might be some people tuning in tonight that, again, mediumship, they might not be their bag. But guys, we're just going to ask you to stretch that, your belief system, and just imagine this experiences was, you had some of these experiences yourself. So, sorry, Dayna, go on.
Sure. So I guess my earliest experience would go back to about the age of three and a half.
Yeah.
And I remember it distinctly because at the time I had awoken hearing that there was perhaps a party going on, lots of people in the house. And I went in search of that noise and had to climb up on, and I remember a lounge chair at the time to turn the light switch on. And there was a bat that had come in through an open window, and that's why I sort of screamed out. But there wasn't anyone awake at the time. That was just the noises that I heard as a child. I quite often would hear a lot of talking, music, and of course, my mother did not find anyone there. So yes, it was just a natural thing that I was born with. But of course, I wasn't communicating at that point. I was only on the receiving end of that.
Okay. Now, as a child, then, again, I've asked people to kind of put yourself in that position. I know from my perspective, at 3.5 years old, I was petrified of the dark. I had to have a light on. You know, I was terrible. I was really afraid of the dark. How did that feel to you?
Well, strangely enough, I was never a child that was afraid of the dark. My mother would say as a baby that she would, the night the lights would be out, she'd turn the light on to go onto the cot to me, and I'd be smiling and looking up all around me. I think my auntie actually thought there was something wrong with me at the time, but I really wasn't afraid of the dark as a young child.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've also got somebody coming in from Australia as well, Danielle. Hello, Danielle.
Wow, Danielle.
So yeah, and it's an interesting aspect, because also at that age we can also have negative experiences that create blocks for people that are natural mediums. I know many people that have had quite scary experiences that can shut that down going into adolescence and into adulthood. Did you find you had anything like that?
Well, growing up, yes, I was in an area where it was a mining community. So, of course, there was lots of tragedies in those times and deaths that would have taken place. So it's very much an energetic imprint upon the atmosphere. And where my house was built was on the outskirts towards the bush area. And if you walked down to that bush area, there'd be just random sort of drop mines everywhere. So it was a very active area where my house was located as such. So yes, I would see things and I would see them just as I would see yourself now. And other times it would just be a movement. But I have to say that I grew up in a family where that was a common experience. I had siblings that had similar experiences, and my mother included. We just came to accept that that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
I
kind of want to tap into that, where you've said about energetic blueprints. I love that, because a lot of people, again, that have these experiences that might see things the corner of the eye don't necessarily understand what that actually means. Can you describe a little bit what you mean by an energetic blueprint?
Well, I suppose it's a charged environment. If any soul that's lived in in their lifetime has had an experience, whether it's trauma, and you go back through the history of man and in the battlefields, I know historically people that go see tourist sites in your location would see or hear and have certain experiences. But from my understanding, it's almost like the atmosphere is so charged that it holds that huge emotional charge, that psychic energy at that time. And those that are sensitive are able to sense that with their psychic faculties, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't even know they're sensitive, but they still have these experiences. I've given messages to people where, oh, your granddad said he saw a ghost when he was here. Yes, it's right, he did. So we are these experiences are out there, and I think it's worth noting on people understanding that process of their own sensitivity. So growing up then, when did you first start to realize that you was a medium?
I don't think the word medium wasn't even in my vocabulary, to tell you the truth. I think my first experience of hearing that there was such a thing as a medium was in my lounge room. I'd actually skipped school that day, and there was a midday show, and I saw James Van Prague.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
I stopped in the middle of the room and was absolutely fascinated by what was taking place. And I remember thinking, wow, he understands. And I actually did go on to do a mentorship with James Van Prague. So that's
yeah,
quite ironic. That was my first experience. I guess in many ways, he paved the way for many people like myself in isolated areas to actually see something on television and understand that, yes, mediums do exist, and this is how they do things and how it works, really.
yeah, yeah. And
Mm.
Stacey's put an interesting comment. I think all little ones are until you teach them there's nothing to be afraid of. I kind of want to come in back to that stage because I know a little child that's really petrified of the dark, and he's 8. And I don't know about you, Dana, but do you believe in past life experiences? Some people believe that children bring in experiences from a past life that they're afraid of.
Oh,
And there is,
really? I haven't heard that as such, but
well,
I act- I
go on.
actually recently, well, I'll just mention that I actually had a past life regression for the first
Oh,
time,
okay.
really, with Dr. Sally Stone, who
Yeah,
was doing Michael Newton's past life regression work. And it was very, very interesting for me to experience it as a medium, because when we step into the experience of a loved one, we're really operating in all faculties, sensing, feeling,
yeah,
we're in it. So when you're pulled back to a previous experience, look, I have left it. I do have a belief in reincarnation. However, I'm always open to the fact that what I believe to be true now may shift and change in the future. So, irregardless of whether you believe in past life or not, the experience itself was so enriching and healing in so many ways, because even if the psyche or the subconscious generates this experience, it really sort of unifies separated parts of the self that may have separated through different traumatic experiences, perhaps
yeah,
through childhood or in life. So it sort of helps unite those and integrate those back into a sense of wholeness, where there's like, okay, I understand this now. And from that sort of acceptance, you're able to process it in the now.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's very healing. But I do have that belief system that we continue on and that we keep
yeah.
re-experiencing.
Yeah, but
Yes.
even and it's interesting that you pick up on that point because even as mediums, and I don't like the word medium because it kind of puts us into a little box. And of course, we are not. We are all so much more. And as we express ourselves through our mediumship, we develop more, we open more, become aware of so much more. But there is that risk that we can shut ourselves off and box ourselves in. And I know there's a study in America at the moment, and it's interesting, especially around Eastern cultures, where their belief system is more around reincarnation, and they've got evidence of a lot of children being born with things like gunshot wounds, burn marks, and I find that really, really interesting. I do wonder whether my experience of the dark, as you say, I didn't like that. And the same for the little boy that I know that's scared of the dark. And he's also very claustrophobic, whether that fear and that energetic blueprint, which we described, was in a particular place from where there was past trauma, that we can carry that through in time and space on our journey.
Yes. I've left my mind open to that. As you said, we tend to sometimes box experiences and lean
Yeah,
into the understandings of those that have gone before, and the experts that write the material. But like most things, we learn more information with more research, and we start to shift and expand. And I think that's in this spiritual seeking path, whether it's psychic work, mediumship, or anything of that spiritual journey, we have to have that movement of mind and that expansion, so we don't limit our thinking, and then we
yeah,
sort of leave our mind open to explore different avenues.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there is a tendency sometimes to want to explain everything away. And in truth, there are just some things that we won't be able to always understand in this lifetime. And I believe that sometimes we're not meant to understand them as well.
Yeah, yeah. See, I kind of have that philosophy, but then I think then we are a product of our programming. So, and
Yeah.
that's another aspect of self. And hi, Kerry. She said, I had a past life regression recently too, and it was most surreal thing I've ever experienced. I literally believe it's caused my spiritual awakening. Amazing, they say. You can bring
Yes.
fears with you.
Yes, and I did do another regression and in follow-up, which was a life between life, which was actually visiting the spiritual world. And it was quite a lengthy one. It went for 4 to 5 hours. So
Oh, okay.
it was, I guess it would be equivalent to, those psychotic, not psychotic, but using drugs to have that spiritual experience. I think
Yeah,
Deepak Chopra talks about it
yeah.
under very regimented conditions.
You're
But it
talking
did
about
give.
ayahuasca, that kind of process that they took with the,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it was very, very similar. The experience I had is very similar to how that is described. That feeling
yeah,
of oneness and connection to all. Very strong. And so from that place, you do walk away with a great sense of calm and peace. So, I mean, I think anyone that's I wouldn't recommend it for someone who has any mental health conditions or anything like
absolutely.
that, of course,
Yeah,
but someone who's very grounded and open to the experience of what might show up. I found a great benefit from that. Um, you know, but I leave my mind open to
yeah,
whether that is the truth of the experience or
yeah,
whether that is part of my subconscious operating like in dream state to explain my present
yeah.
reality.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think that's a great philosophy to have, because that also keeps you grounded. And there is this fear within what we do that we can become, forgive me for saying this, people, a little bit airy fairy, so we can go off believing everything. We do have to be grounded. I absolutely agree with that. But I was just going to say with the ayahuasca stuff, please do not try this at home. This stuff can make you really quite seriously ill,
Mm.
especially if you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you have any mental health issues. We wouldn't recommend that at all. And Stacey's put, my fear of the dark is from this life, not the past life, but my fear of heights, I'm not sure where they came from, but was definitely reinforced in this life. That's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm very scared of flying, by the way, and I've just come back off holiday, and I kissed the ground when I got back virtually, but we got back in one piece nevertheless.
I
But
share that with you, Paul.
yeah, yeah, it's not an easy experience. I've even dreamed of the plane going down, and again, there's a level of that psychosuggestion when we tap onto these videos on you. We've all seen them, the YouTube videos where the plane's going down. There is a lot of that psychosuggestion that goes on within our life.
And there
And
is, we absorb so much that's happening in the atmosphere, the books that we've read, and we might
yeah,
in that moment recall that we have that knowledge, but it's in the
yeah,
subconscious. So,
absolutely.
it can be a powerful suggestion. So we go, where did that fear come from? Or why am I fearing that? But you may have been at the age of 3 and heard an adult talk panicked about something they were concerned about. So you ingest that and then
Yeah,
bring that back into reality.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as spiritual beings, I listened to someone on a podcast recently talking about us being spiritual beings within an ocean, and within that ocean there are other fish and many energies swimming around, and that influence us on a daily basis that we're not aware of. So sometimes we need to check our thoughts and feelings, and when we start to open, we do have to be really, really careful, because we start to become aware of more subtle energies that are around us. I'm not trying to make fear out of this,
No, but
that,
it's true, particularly when those psychic faculties are awakening and even
yeah,
in the beginnings of mediumship, that sensitivity of the mind as it's reaching out and expanding to feel into the environment. You're in class and you're learning or you're doing a reading, and then you might go out to the supermarket. And if you're not self-aware enough and don't have that awareness of, I'm working now or I'm not working, that can be a bit overwhelming initially. And because that is that initial excitement and curiosity, I don't know about you, Paul, but I couldn't get enough books or read enough things. And it was like this whole world opened to me that felt, very familiar in many ways. Back when I was younger, I was doing many years ago now, I was doing a psych degree. And because I was coming from a small country town, it was my first time in a city library attached to the university. And I found parapsychology. When I should have been getting textbooks for my assignments, I was looking at that wonderful world, the unseen world, fascinated. Couldn't get all the books I needed, and I didn't have a vehicle and had to walk so many k's home. So I would spend hours sitting in that aisle, reading books, just fascinated with that world. So it's kind of no surprise that I've ended up doing what I'm doing, because that really just lit me up. And it was something that I had a working understanding of as well, with those experiences from childhood as well.
Yeah. And Eleanor, by the way, hi, Eleanor. What a great statement you've put on here in your comments. Intention and what you put your energy to are very important. And I remember having a message early on from my guide saying, your intention is the most powerful thing. And
well, it's your awareness of your power, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Awareness is your power. And once you actually set that intention, I guess, to be noticing when your mind shifts and moves in different states, you're sort of building up this engine that starts just to operate automatically. And I know Christine Morgan, one of my mainstay mentors here in Australia, and she's a tutor at Arthur Findlay College. She always says deconstruct to reconstruct. So you can get these spontaneous hits or psychic information coming in, even for those who aren't necessarily working in the field. And that's a very human characteristic. We've had this psychic faculty running since the time of man. We were wired to keep safe. So we were constantly feeling into the environment, checking, am I safe? Am I okay? So, it's just something that's come through the time of man. And now that we're in a position to have more study and research, and the science that's coming behind this work is brilliant now in support of it.
And so much has opened in recent years, and so many people are more open to the possibility of the energies and what we're working with. It's just fantastic. Raincloud, hi Raincloud. I've dreamt someone pushed me out of a window from a high-rise building, totally petrified of heights. Is that potentially a subconscious trigger just around that? I've had dreams of falling, etc. It could be based around that rather than it being an actual past life experience. So that's when the logical, for me, kind of kicks in a little bit. What is the message behind what we're feeling or sensing, if that makes sense, or dreaming?
Well, the dream state is the land of in between. So the subconscious is really operating in that area. And yes, I do tend to agree with you, Paul. It's not necessarily a past life experience. It's just that we symbolically look at something that has created fear states before, and it may be something we're moving through in our own life that we're worried about or concerned about. Another common one is teeth falling out as well. That's something someone else experiences as well. And that's usually a state of insecurity or fear, or perhaps you're feeling instability and not a strong foundation in your life. So that sense of I don't have control in my life.
Well, you sound like you know a lot about dream state analysis, Dayna.
It's not something, well, having said that, if you looked at my bookshelf, it's not something that I've done any formal studies with, but, there's many books, wonderful books, looking at the dream state and the land of in between. And I do find it fascinating because I am quite creative in my own right. And I think anyone that does writing understands that sometimes there's this flow of information that comes through almost as if it's known to you. Is that, sometimes we're touched by those in the spirit world that overshadow our minds and move our minds spontaneously. And other times we're sort of drawing from a collective consciousness, I guess. Because every thought's been thought of before, even with the inventions coming through, like many novels written in the past with inventions that were yet to be. So it's a very interesting field. It's not one I'm well versed on, but I, like most things, have an interest in anything that moves my mind to question things.
Okay. You might be one of those friends that I can message now and say, look, I've dreamt of this. What's this? Sorry about that.
I would say the best person to interpret their dreams truly is oneself, because you alone know what you're moving through. You have to examine what the main themes are, or what the emotional state that you've been moving through, and what the characters are in your life, because they can represent challenges to move you beyond a different situation. So the subconscious can reconstruct that in a way that you can process that with more heightened awareness, because you re-experience it in that dream state.
Yeah. And Cindy's asked a great question. Is awareness the same as intuition?
Oh, good question. Well, I think awareness is that intuition is a faculty that operates. It's a very good question, actually, Cindy. Let me just sit with that. Paul, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think there's a slight variation to awareness.
It's only subtle, isn't it?
It's very subtle. So awareness is when you become aware of, for me, one of the early experiences that I had, I became aware of, I didn't want to call it entities, but I became aware of somebody being in the room. No, no, intuition is more of a story to me. It talks to
That's
me.
exactly right.
It gives me that what's going on here, and that's more about my higher self communicating
That's right.
with me. And
yeah. So awareness would be the response to a physical stimulus or a shift in an energetic state, whereas intuition is actually tapping into that knowledge or that knowing that is beyond the physical state.
Yeah. I hope that makes sense, Cindy, because that's and a lot of our experiences, and this is where I think people can run away with themselves sometimes by not understanding that all the energies that we are wrapped around, for want of a better phrase, are very subtle. And it's with meditation or just mindfulness that we become more aware of these subtleties, that we're able to separate and understand. It's more about understand self, isn't it? On one's
Absolutely.
journey. So great question, Cindy. Can I just say to people, guys, this is your chance to ask us these questions. We are working mediums here, and we give up our time to be here for you guys, because one, we're passionate about what we do, and we love spreading information. And on Spiritual Talk, we like to bring mediums on that are well versed, are well educated, and can help us and help you on your own spiritual journeys. And Kerry's put, I have a tattoo on my arm that reads, dreams are illustrations from the book your soul is writing about you. Beautiful. I'm not sure what mine says about me.
Piece of writing, Paul. I have a piece of writing. One of the poems that I'll be reading later tonight is along that theme, actually. So.
Okay. And one of the aspects I wanted to talk to you about, you're a spiritual poet, and I know you touched on it slightly, but can you tell us a little bit about why, first of all, what got you into spiritual poetry, and explain a little bit what, again, that word spiritual and poetry comes together.
It wasn't a decision that I'm going to be a spiritual poet. I think poetry sort of tattooed upon my soul. So, we come in with certain attributes that we have to express or desires to express. And I've been writing since I was a young girl. And quite often my mother would find me in the dark at night, writing out under the moonlight in a blanket, probably from about the age of 12 onwards. But I've always written. I think it's a great salve for the soul. It's a way to express those inner workings, those inner thoughts. And I just found it. Some people have that joy of music, as do I. You might see lots of records behind me here, but because of the words, and a song that stands without the music and words alone really reaches in and grabs that soul, that place within you. So yes, it's something I've always done. I did go on to do formal writing with a magazine, and I did some real estate writing at a time, but being able to write something with meaning and with heart has always been that creative inspiration for myself. And it just moved. I think all poetry canvases the life that we're experiencing. So, in a way, it is an exploration of self. It is a questioning of human nature and that movement of mind as it experiences different events in our life, whether it's marriage, birth, divorce. They're all opportunities to examine who we are in that moment. And how we're growing through that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, can we have that last comment back on? From, I think it was Deborah. I don't know if you guys can see that at home. First of all, I think we might have lost it. I just wanted to say, Deborah, um, having cared for my dad who passed, then my brother who passed, then my mum dying unexpectedly in my arms, then my son, a horrific death, then caring for my sister and dying in my arms, it seems I've lost all sense of fear. First of all, I want to say sorry for so much profound loss, and no words can really
Absolutely.
express
No.
that, I guess. And see, I always, this is going to sound really bad, I always believe things happen for a reason and a part of your own soul journey, you know, but it always comforts me that our loved ones are always so close to us.
Absolutely. But I think in the rawness of grief, you know, that in hindsight might be an understanding that we can sort of ingest and take on board. But at the time, when that human soul is going through that great trauma and that grief, that's a very hard way to process it. And I know people say things like it was their time,
Yeah,
but when you have a series of traumatic events like that, it is,
it's
you know, it shakes the soul, and there's no way to cognitize that
no,
at the time and to
no,
make sense of
absolutely.
it. It's really one foot in front of the other. And I know that, you know, we do that work for people who've suffered great loss and are really sitting in that the trenches of that experience and at that point. And so we have to have a certain level of understanding of the personal experience of that grief.
Yeah,
And it's not a one size fits all. And obviously in Deborah's case, that's a series of unfathomable traumas, one after the other.
yeah,
So we have to be very gentle with the people that we're dealing with, because, you know, we can reunite and that can give comfort, but the grief process rather itself is a very human and lived experience.
yeah,
And whilst the reading can be uplifting and safe in the knowledge that we'll see our loved ones again and that life goes on,
yeah.
we still have to actually live in this physical body, which is suffering from states of nervous dysregulation. It's a trauma, it's a shock.
Ah,
So
look,
we all need someone to hold space for us as we move through that grief process.
absolutely. And it's interesting what Deborah's just come back and said. For all these losses, I've been able to help others. I'm thankful for that. And they're on some soul level, there'll be a reason why you've had that experience. And I always believe you choose your family, you choose your experiences on a soul level. Although it doesn't take away from the pain or the loss you're going through at this moment in time, but on a higher level, it's in that pain there'll be that growth.
Absolutely. And Deborah, you've obviously been able to ingest that
Yeah,
experience and it's grown your empathy. It hasn't grown you harder. And I
absolutely.
can say that's not always the experience for everyone. And so that shows me the progression of your spiritual self and that coming of wisdom and that opening your heart more from that experience. And that truly is a gift to anyone else in your circle and the lives that you touch from here on in, is that you will understand exactly what they are moving through. There are some things that cannot be learned in books. You can't do a course. You
Yep,
have to have that lived experience to be able to respond with all your intuition and compassion and understanding and knowledge to be able to offer comfort to the soul in front of you. So
yeah,
it's wonderful that you've been able to reach that point, Deborah.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, Deborah. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. So, just quickly going back to your spiritual poetry, Dayna, there was one aspect of that I wanted to touch on about
Sure.
within your journey. Do you believe that actually enhanced your mediumship in terms of connecting to the heart center, opening up more, expressing, having that
Uh, I think
expression?
any poet is has experienced, they're sensitive and they observe the world probably perhaps a little bit different to the average person. So we're hyper vigilant to looking at things that other people wouldn't necessarily notice. Quite often, poets would, from a young age, be able to discern other people's emotional states, or they might move their mind to things in nature that people bypass.
Yeah.
And as you grow on that sensitivity, I think that that ability to articulate that in a meaningful way. And look, there's all levels of poetry. Some people, you know, that expression of word and that dance of the words as they play out can move the soul where it feels supported, heard, and understood. But equally, sometimes, you know, most beautiful passages I've read have been just so simplistic, but just hit the truth.
Yeah.
So I think in answer to your question, Paul, I'll go back to that, is that under the tutorage I've had through Christine Morgan, and she's very much about the creative potential behind each mediumship, and she's moved down lines in many different ways, whether it's reading a passage and then inspired speech and then connecting with the loved ones. So as you start to become sort of more in flux with that sort of exchange and flow of information, I think naturally it just starts to flow out of you. And I would say in some regards, particularly with the souls that are drawn to work with me, that ability to articulate certain emotions or to explain in words what I'm actually looking at and feeling at the same time does help.
Yeah. And a great comment here from hi Kathy Littlewood has put, yes, it can be exhausting emotionally if you don't have boundaries in place. And I believe Kathy's talking about what we were talking about a little bit earlier. I had to learn and develop boundaries with it so I can separate what was mine and what was someone else's. That's quite interesting as well, having spiritual boundaries.
Yes, I think boundaries is one of those things that we have to learn, and it really comes back to the childhood we had,
Yeah.
The caregivers that we experienced, what was safe, what wasn't safe, and
Yes.
we become accustomed and acclimatized to what is known, and whether it was
Yeah.
healthy or not, dysfunctional or not, it becomes a norm, and we can quite often redraw those experiences to ourselves because there's a level of feeling of home or comfort in that. But equally, as we grow, we have to then re-establish what is healthy and what's not healthy, and it's what's healthy right for us. So I think it's a lifelong journey to re-establish those boundaries and to stand in your own power, and you know, to thy own self be true. And that really is something that takes some time and practice, and bringing that awareness
Yeah.
and mindfulness to it consistently.
Yeah. And Kathy's also a great comment here as well. She's asked a question: can an empath be a medium, or is there a difference? I am an empath that truly feel like I have a strong intuition.
Okay, that's a good question, Kathy. I will say that I work with a lot of empaths. I do find that empaths are naturally heightened in their sensitivity. So we all have this antenna system that sort of in our auric field that goes out to the environment and senses into the environment around us. And it's sort of an autopilot for empaths. And that usually is because there's been an unpredictable caregiver in their childhood, because they would have from a very young age been fine-tuned to feeling in their environment within their home or family to sense, do I lay low? Do I have to, you know, it's a protective human instinct. So you're naturally wired that way. So as you move into the wider world, as you get older and move beyond the family home, it's just natural that you're going to feel into the emotional states of those around you. So yes, intuition moves a little bit more than that, though. It then becomes a nudge of a knowingness or a prompt. But that development of mediumship, it doesn't always mean that you'll be a medium because you're an empath. I will say that.
Yeah.
However, you have the potential within your soul, if you so choose to explore that you can discover and improve that intuitive ability. And from that, the soul then moves in a different way. And sometimes spirit steps in and has that divine timing. You might find yourself, I mean, I came really into the formal study of this quite late. That was back of a personal experience, a health experience that was life-threatening at the time.
Yeah.
So what I'd had naturally as a childhood, and that sensitivity and that ability to feel into, and I had spontaneous experiences. But through that illness, I became hyper aware of my environment because my body was failing in so many ways that my insight into what was happening internally was then extended out beyond myself. And as that happened, I started to have more and more experiences revisit And that's when I thought, okay, I need to do something with this, and
Yeah.
and went to join a circle and workshops from there on in.
Yeah, great explanation, Kathy said. Can I ask a question?
You may,
So
Paul.
I'm sorry, this is a bit loaded. This is a bit of a kind of
It's 3 a.m., Paul.
well, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just going to come out of it. Can anyone be a medium? Do you believe that can anyone? Because the great Jonathan Edwards, medium, American
Yes.
medium, is very one that believes that they can. What's your take on it?
If we're going to learn the mechanics of mediumship, there's a difference. There's spiritual mediums, and then there's mediums that work. And in my opinion, they learn a process, they juggle the balls, they get information. And sometimes when I see them work, they dip into psychic, then back to mediumship. So I really think that the true spiritual medium is born. And it is that divine timing where that need or that choice to express that in this lifetime comes to fruition.
Okay, but here it comes. So what if you've made that agreement before you come here to be a medium, and you're not naturally opposed to being a mediumship in terms of part of your life's journey was to do other things, but you have this undercurrent of like, look at Gordon Smith. He was a barber, and so there he was cutting people's hair, giving readings. So he was going one way and ended up going another, like a lot of mediums do, whether it's through trauma, they have these experiences. But would you say that it's more to do with consciousness experience rather than it being an individual soul level, if that makes sense? Because I still feel in my
Look,
head, I kind of feel that there's an opportunity for everyone to connect with our loved ones, and I think it's more about evolution rather than being specifically mediums are born into it,
well,
if that
that
makes
all
sense.
depends, Paul, because everyone has that ability to connect with their loved ones and be aware of signs that our loved ones give us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to have that dialogue or conversation as such. So there is a distinction there.
Okay.
Also, too, I will say that, there can be psychic snatching that happens in mediumship, which is classed as mediumship, but they're actually reading into the field of the person in front of them. Now,
Yeah,
if you give a
yeah.
piece of evidence that person doesn't have in their memory, it qualifies that you're communicating with that loved one in spirit. And I will also say too that there's a certain light upon the fabric of the medium's soul, and there is divine timing. It may be the trigger of a trauma or an event where that comes into its fullness, where the soul becomes ignited, it needs to be expressed. And whilst there can be mediums that can make connections, and it's all mediumship. However, I think a spiritual medium has a certain canvas, there's certain colors upon their soul,
Yeah.
because they're not just seeking to give evidence, yes, I'm right, yes, 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 I'm connecting. It's that movement of the soul in front of them. It's that deliverance of healing. It's that connection. It's that communion. It's the essence and the presence that you're able to provide in that moment. There's a feeling that happens when you see a spiritual medium really work and be in their power. It feels less of someone juggling balls than more of someone opening up their heart to the spirit world, bringing that loved one to them and joining the two worlds. It's sacred. And there's
Oh,
a level.
absolutely. I absolutely agree.
Mm,
It's definitely sacred. But from
mm.
another aspect of it, if we are all a spark of that divine, there's within us that opportunity to allow that to be through us. I don't want to go into kind of biblical context on this, but for me, I believe that the soul has the potential if it so chooses. That's so
Yes. Well,
there is a real and I never used to think this way, and this has come from a different aspect. But I'm starting to kind of get messages where I believe that we are in a very unique time of consciousness. And I think I remember growing up, and if someone mentioned deja vu, it was like, you're weird, man, you're weird. Now people just embrace everything, and it gives us that opportunity and
yes.
scope to explore. But I do agree with you. There is this level of expressing and connecting through us, and I believe it's a level of development of the soul itself. But Sally Ann's asked a really great question. Sorry to go off on a tangent, Sally Ann. Please, may I ask you both, to confirm if we astral travel all the time whilst we sleep. What would you say to that? Well, you should be sleeping right now, so you're still here. So,
I think this is a form of astral travel in
yeah.
itself. Uh, Look, I think, we know that we come into different levels of dipping down into deeper states of sleep. So yes, that ability to connect with that universal consciousness and experience and have messages come through dreams occurs in certain states. But equally, there are states when our body needs to rest and repair. So I don't think that we're falling asleep and then mind journeying the whole time. I think there is that state of rest when the body is doing the very physical thing that it needs to do.
Yeah, well, according to my partner, I'm always snoring, so I'm sure I'm leaving my body at some point because I wouldn't want to listen to it. She actually recorded it once, so yeah, I'm hoping that I do project. Although it is quite common that you can have these experiences. I've met lots of people that have this experience on a regular basis. So I'm not sure whether it's about that awareness opening up and being aware that you're traveling. And a lot of people kind of have experiences where they're floating above their body, and I'm not sure that's necessarily astral travel. It could just be a state of being at that moment in that sleep state. But I would suggest that could also be the next level or getting ready for the next level. So
Well, I can add something to that, Paul, because when I was gravely ill, and at the time they didn't know what was troubling me at the time, and so I was battling this illness myself. Quite often when the body was so sick, and I was so sick, I was too sick to sleep.
oh wow.
And that's an experience I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
So what would actually happen in that moment is that because my body was going through so much at the time, I would lift off above my body. And I remember the first time it happened, I remember looking back down in a little bit of a panic, like, I've got to get back in. It was that feeling of that soul just needing to reprieve. I know too in readings prior to when we connect with loved ones on the other side, and sometimes there's a hospital scene, they'll quite often talk about prior to their passing having already had that experience of leaving that physical body to rest almost as they're moving through that very physical dying process. So yes, that's an experience I've had, and I believe many people have had that experience in peak experiences of illness as well.
Yeah. Well, I actually met a lady once that had an experience that, and she said to me, "Oh, you're a medium and you have all these experience." I never have any experience. She said the only experiences I've had is an out of body experience about 3 or 4 times in my life. And she said I had a couple when I was a child, and it was always when I was in trouble. And the other 2 was when I was having an argument with my husband. I felt suddenly I was out of my body looking down on the situation rather than being involved in it. I found that very interesting, almost like a trauma response to leave the body.
Mm.
So I wish I could have done that at
I
school.
did have a similar experience through a cesarean where
Oh, okay.
they had given me medication that my body was having an allergic response to. So they had to give me huge amounts of adrenaline. But as that was happening, that panic situation, and the baby had already been lifted out, I automatically at that time wasn't aware that I wasn't in my body. My consciousness had separated that physical body as it was going through that. And I was peering over the nurse's shoulders because my main priority is to make sure that my baby was safe, that my baby was okay. And it felt as real as if I was standing right next to them. So, and that was interesting then looking back at the operating table. And as soon as my mind moved to, it was almost just a blip, and then I was back in the body.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And Kathleen has asked, do you think animals see loved ones that have passed on? My dog constantly sits and stares at my dresser that was my mum's, who passed 3 years ago. Interesting. I'm not sure if you had experiences with animals.
I think animals are very, very sensitive to their environment. Cats, dogs, lots of animals sense when there's a change or shift in an energetic state. Equally, animals will respond to that psychic energy that's expressed and expanded. If there's friction or arguments in a household, an animal will respond. So to me, it makes sense that if there's a charged environment or that's impressed upon a certain area, that an animal has that ability to sense that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I know of a ghost story where I'm full of stories, by the way. I should warn you.
You
A friend,
didn't
I didn't warn you at the beginning.
at all.
A friend of mine who was in the military was served on a Second World War airfield where a military policeman was called to an unidentified person on the airbase, and he realized something was wrong when suddenly the dog that he let off to go get the person that was trespassing run back the other way past him and was scared stiff. And when he looked, it was a ghost of a headless pilot. And apparently there is a legend, or sorry, a story of a gentleman that lost his head and crashed on the airfield, and his ghost, the legend has it that the ghost of his body is seen headless, but the dog perceived that and probably did the right thing by running the other way, to be fair. But I personally believe animals are very aware of energies around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to what we were talking about, that, impregnated energy in that space and that time. And, you quite often hear stories of sailors, that would, when there's been a ship that's gone down or a tragedy in a certain area. And it's almost like there's sort of a glitch in the matrix somewhere, and it's just you're watching just for a moment that, because, time's not linear. It's all happening. It's a man-made thing. And we're kind of moving in between different experiences that are happening. If there's a charged environment, it's easy to see that impression of that lived moment in that time.
And that is really interesting to what's happening in America with the UAPs or the UFOs. And one of the experts that was summoned in front of the committee talked about these UFOs potentially not actually coming from outer space. It's more of a quantum theory. They're coming through dimensions. And I felt that was very interesting, very, very interesting. And of course, it's brought the whole thing up for debate. And there's a lot of physics people out there kind of poo-pooing it. But it's great that it's brought that to the table. It really has. Yeah.
Well, I think that's opening up a whole can of worms there, Paul.
It is. We'll move on. But we do live in this really interesting time where everyone seems to be more open-minded, more aware, and I think we're in a wonderful opportunity to grow as individuals, but also to come together as a collective. Kathy's asked. That makes a lot of sense about animals. They actually see in black and white and shadows, so it's not far to believe that they would be more sensitive to spirit energy around them. Yeah, agreed. And anyone who's had a cat, they're always looking around at things. And one of my first experiences was a cat that, like the Tom and Jerry, where the cat goes up on its and run out of the room, and then we heard footsteps coming down the hall. There was nothing there. So animals do sense. Absolutely. So,
well, look at the bond that exists between an animal and its owner. Just recently I was looking online, and there was a dog that consistently every day would go from its house and sit on top of the gravestone of their owner. So that connection, that bond, that love, and it continues on.
Great question from Barbara. Dayna, I really want to talk about you a bit more, but people are coming in with some great questions, and they're really using this opportunity. And absolutely, Barbara.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt is the nemesis of every medium. And initially when you're starting out, and it may be, for myself, I was, doing healings at the time, and then realized that I was, because I'm in that auric field and I was doing different energy healing as well, I was suddenly getting, impressions upon family members and giving information. And it was a short while I realized people were coming to see me, not for the healing as such, but more for what I was bringing through from loved ones. But that initial confidence that I had, when you go into that deconstruct to reconstruct, suddenly you're asked to understand what it is you're doing and to separate and isolate that, and to improve what you're doing. It's very easy then to come in going, okay, I can do this, and then, whoa, hang on, I can't. I've got to go back now, and I've really got to get the foundations. I always used to say to Christine, as a medium, I'm a terrible psychic initially when I started because I was just doing connections with the mediumship, and then suddenly I had to do all these psychic exercises as well. But I mean, every medium's a psychic, but not every psychic's a medium. We understand that, but it's that awareness we bring, that subtleness in the mind as it shifts and moves. And it's easy then to lack that confidence. But I always like to think, if you go in with that idea that everything you do is just an experiment, you know, it's you kind of have to move beyond that. Oh, if it's wrong, you have to park your ego at the door. Otherwise, you'd never give names, you'd never give streets, you'd never do any of those things. You know, I always say I'm not worried about being wrong. Give me the no.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, give me the no. It helps move my mind in another direction. It just helps me not go down a rabbit hole of anything. So when
absolutely.
you're not getting injured by the nose, and realize that that's a gift to you to move your mind back to that last piece of evidence, or to what spirit was showing you. It just moves your mind back to where it needs to be. But yes, it is something that will plague, and it will come and go, and you'll have spurts of that. But it's just rolling up the sleeves and doing the necessary exercises and tasks that after a while, it just becomes autopilot. It's much like when you're a child learning to put a ball into a hoop for the first time. If I sat you through and took you through all that physics that is being calculated in order to get that ball go in, well, that's wonderful, but you're not going to be able to put the ball in the hoop. So it's by that repetition and doing, the body just starts to automatically, do all the calculations necessary. And there's this connection between the mind and the body, and there's this movement and flow. And so that's what happens in that repetition. And, you know, if I was to say to you that you're going to have 1,000 no's before you get a yes, particularly in mediumship, would that put you off? Well, for me, no. I would have been quite happy to go and keep getting no's until I started getting those yeses. And it's that examination of self. Like, we see a no as not getting something right, as if I'm not enough, there's something wrong, someone else can do that. But it really is beyond our own ego, is what I'm going to say to you. But as a human, we have fragile egos, and everyone wants to be right. And everyone wants to be fantastic and great and amazing when they start out. Even as a natural medium sensing into that spirit world, I wasn't communicating. I was receiving sounds. I could hear music sometimes playing, but I wasn't engaging and interacting. And so that's a very learnt skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe to help Barbara a little bit with that, how does your connection work for you? I know for me, because of the times that I've been working over a certain period of time, and spirit know me, my guides know me, my team know me very well. I'll almost go into a conscious state where I can't put a sentence together. So I know I'm about to work because I'm starting to flounder in what I'm saying. And
really?
I realize they want me to shut up and get on and work. So stop talking, connect to us, let's get working. And I've found that is almost like the key to start working. So if I was at a demonstration, for instance, explaining how I work, and then suddenly all memory goes. I can't even think straight, for want of a better word. But that's how it works with me, with spirit stepping into me. And I like that because it's more of a deeper overshadowing. But how does it work for you?
I wonder sometimes if that's our need to have that we're on and we're off. We create that felt experience in the body in order to go, oh, it's about to happen. Then we move our mind. But naturally, we only have to put that thought and open up to that, and we will start to blend. But I don't have that as such, Paul. I do know if there's any group readings or platform or work as such, that I will start to feel that, particularly when I'm connecting, that need to move, almost like I want to get out of my chair. It's just that movement of energy that happens within as you rise up and connecting with that power. But I haven't had that experience. I have heard other mediums have that. It's not been my personal experience. I literally just sit the intention that I'm about to work, and then it occurs. I mean, obviously we have different felt experiences when we're connecting, and it's becoming stronger within us. We may rise up to that pinnacle in the reading as such, but I don't necessarily get that, okay, you're at the beginning, you're going to start. It's just a movement of mind for me.
Yeah, hi Joe. Joe's put that happens to me too. Where been wondering why recently. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, again, I've had that experience where I've wanted to move up and down, and I realized then that actually what I was doing was taking away from what I was doing. People were watching me move rather than listening to me connect and bring through spirit. But that energy does want you to move. Now, some churches or places where I've demonstrated, there's been a little plinth, and you have to stand there. And Norwich Spiritual Church, which is a wonderful old establishment, it's been there for many, many years. They have the same, where the medium has to stand there. They can't move. They've got the microphone, and that's an interesting energy. It really is. But I do think it's the right thing to do, because actually, if you can stop moving around, you're then focusing your energy deeper. It's almost like the level of mediumship you're going through. Does that make sense?
Well, I, it does make sense. However, I will say it depends on what spirit you're connecting with. I mean, if I've got a flamboyant lady here who wants to
Right.
dance, my arms are going to go up, and I'm going to move because I'm moving with her. And equally, if I have a male who's very, I tend to embody their stature, or I will
Yeah.
find quite often my arms moving in a certain way, or even if I'm seated, perhaps doing a reading, I might have my foot going and not realize, oh, my foot's going, and then
Yeah.
I'm on a sewing machine. So I think it's just how the individual spirits that you work with as well, and you let that power move you, but not as that active movement and then connect. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But then I think that's a really, for me, that's a really good sign, because you're blending with that person's energy there. Whether they were flamboyant, whether they were introvert, you're picking that up. Whether they were, I remember doing a reading a little while ago when the person said it was great. Not only was you getting the facts right, but it was the fact that you were sitting like they used to sit all the time, and the way you would move forward and talk.
Mm,
And
mm.
I guess that's another level of the evidence you're bringing through on a, on a,
Well,
on an unconscious level.
yes. Well, it's unconscious temporarily until it's brought to that awareness, that superpower we talk about. Uh, because when you're really blending strongly, you'll find yourself doing things you wouldn't normally, or you're pinching an elbow that was a problem, and that becomes part of the evidence itself. Or you may find when it's a really strong connection that you almost sometimes will you might sense a tick in your eye, and that person had a tick in their eye. So
Yeah.
that's just a strong blend when you get that with a connection. But equally, you can't be too careful. We don't want to be spooking the person in front of us all of a sudden
Yeah.
when we're doing a reading one-on-one. But yes, it can move you physically in different ways.
So have you had any trance experiences, Anna? Have you had any of working in that way?
Look, in all honesty, I haven't really. It's not something that I've sought out. I've seen a lot of mediums that are just beginning out in mediumship, and maybe intermediary mediums as well,
Yeah.
and then they sign up for trance workshops and whatnot. And I have seen a lot of people that believe that they're in trance, but not necessarily. And to me, it just seems like trance is something that takes that while to develop, and to sit in the same circle with people and to share that power.
Yeah.
So because the time involved, I haven't had a great push to commit to the trance experience and sit regularly in a circle to build that up. However, I do sit in a circle, and we go into the power. There is altered levels of that state, so we temporarily touch that edge sometimes, and we
Yeah.
become so close to the spirit world
Yeah.
that we can feel that movement sometimes, that
Yeah.
changing state, and when the blend is quite strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, on a personal level, do your loved ones support you? How are they with mum being a medium?
I think initially there was some skepticism about what I was actually doing, and I do have a Catholic background, and I still consider
Ah,
myself Catholic.
interesting.
However, there were certain members of the family that were fearful that what I was doing
Yeah.
was the devil's work.
Yeah.
But really, in my point, the whole point of what I'm doing is to show and prove that heaven is real. and to reconnect you with your loved ones. So I think working from that pure place and that connection with that divine love is only something that is godly and very connected spiritually. Certainly not any dark work, that's for sure.
And that's interesting, because that whole having that I don't want to say programming, but that belief system, growing up with that, was you devout Catholic? Was you practicing, or was it
I was a
just
practicing. No, I was a practicing Catholic, or was church going Catholic schools.
because there'll be a lot of people out there that have a faith, or they practice their belief system, and they are picking up spirit, hearing spirit. And I know of there was a priest that was hearing spirit as well, and he had to shut it down because of his belief system and everything else. But for you, how did you get over that? Was that just simply because you felt that love of spirit, or did you feel that connection at what you was doing
Well,
was okay?
I don't really think I had a choice because, well, 17 years ago now, I had experience with my daughter being very ill.
Yeah.
And gravely ill and wasn't expected to live. And she was only a baby, so she had a very rare form of cancer. So I spent 12 months in Sydney Children's Hospital here in Australia. And I witnessed things and experienced things in those times. And because I was praying with that, praying for healing, we were given less than a 5% chance of her survival at that time.
Wow.
So really, I didn't have much of, and I was very thankful for the faith that I had and still have to lean into that understanding of that. I used to visualize all the prayers that were being said to her above my mind, and then pulling and breathing that through my heart space into her. And I can equally say I used to see this amazing phenomena that would happen. They used to watch with the babies with any sick child, really, oxygen saturation levels. And if it dips below a certain amount, which happens quite often sometimes through chemotherapy, you're rushed off into intensive care. And there's a protocol that's pumped out. And quite often the kidneys of certain children, after so many rounds, there was that fear, if you go to intensive care, you're not coming back again because the kidneys wouldn't be able to cope. So I was in that situation where the oxygen saturations were dropping.
Yeah.
So I just surrendered to that moment and appealed to God with all prayers. And then started pushing that universal prayer, every word, every good deed from all my loved ones, indeed, let them come to us now and through for the healing of my daughter. And as I pushed that through from my heart space into her, with that intention and that purity and that belief and that faith, her oxygen saturations come up. And so I did that for about 3 hours. And I didn't actually lock the intensive care team out of my room that had come for a trolley until I got her to where I needed to be. So, I believe in that faith and that healing and that intention, that collective, when people come together and they're saying the same words or their intention is the same, it's powerful. It's like a channel. It's like a bridge to that spiritual world.
You're tapping into my kind of language. I truly believe that your intention is powerful. Faith is another word for power, isn't it? Having that power of faith and belief system, you truly can. And someone touched on that. Forgive me, I've forgotten their name. Someone touched on that. What we think we create. And I totally agree with that. And so, therefore, those people, there'll be lots of people out there listening to this. They might be in hospital. What would you say to them in terms of their own faith and belief system?
Look,
So that's a heavy question, Dan. I'm so sorry.
It's a loaded question, and I don't think it's quite a fair question, because I will say this, is that equally those with the same faith as myself would have prayed in the same manner that I did.
That's true.
And their child didn't come through that treatment. So one of the things that I wrestled with on the other side of being able to walk out the end of that, feeling that I had been gifted this miracle, is that I equally left mothers behind that didn't get to bring their children home.
Yeah.
And they had less aggressive cancers and they weren't expected to pass. So, it's a challenge sometimes to understand that way, that timing happens when our loved ones leave us and return home. But I take comfort in the fact that I do know that they come home, that we all go to that same place.
Yeah, and Rebecca's put, that's how I'm getting through my illness. I've surrendered to Spirit's strong faith. And I'm sorry to give you such a loaded question, but there is a real sense of for me, trying to get that belief system out there to help people that they have this ability and power to heal thyself. I believe that's a possibility that all humanity can do. I mean, some people talk there was a time when we were able to heal ourselves a lot easier, better than what we are aware of today. Obviously, with modern medicine, etc., things have moved on, but they do talk about ancient Greece, for example. There was a lot of writings and teachings about the healers of Greece and what they could do. And indeed, ancient Egypt, there was talk about healers being able to regrow limbs. And can you imagine that from the blueprint of the etheric blueprint of the body? It just goes beyond, again, the belief system that we hold today with modern science, etc. So, but I do think it's really important, or we're aware of something more powerful that can help us and heal us. Because there'd be a lot of people without a faith.
Well, a lot of mediums that are healers too are enlisting that support of that spiritual team to pass through them, to assist them in that healing or that laying of hands as such. Yeah. And that's quite a Catholic tradition as well, the laying of hands. So as much as we open the door to that pathway, I don't believe that we completely generate that healing for ourselves. I believe that there's a union between this world and the next. That our belief system, or that belief in the power within to initiate that, is initiatory. It opens that door and that pathway. And that's just my personal belief.
Yeah. I sometimes forget myself when I'm feeling poorly or ill myself that we all have that ability to heal ourselves anyway. But yeah, so we've been going on for an hour and 15 minutes already. And I know we said we was going to do some messages, but I'm not sure if we're going to have enough time. But I know you said you would share with us some of your lovely poetry. Is that a possibility?
Sure. Well, I've got, like most things, when you need a printer to work, it didn't. But I do have one piece here. And I might just read the one piece, I think, Paul, seeing what time it is. And I do have to get up and go. I wrote this literally last night. So the first few lines came to me in circle with Christine in Inspired State. But I'll just read this for you now. Life is a love letter to your soul that speaks of all that glitters gold. Worry not if you feel alone, for as the path you are the stone. With every step you are worn gold. With every tear your heart is grown. The courage, strength, and self-belief is the movement of light at your birth bequeathed. It's the experience and stories upon your soul that fills your letters with. Not for the time before, nor sadden at past lines recalled. Speak only of moments where your remembered light shined upon another's darkest night. For there within is where you illuminate the soul's truth in its most perfect state. So write this love letter upon your soul, your infinite beauty with lines dipped in gold. You came upon this world with words of light upon your lips and sacred text within. So remain steadfast and stay the line. Weary not, though challenged with days of darker kind, for you are the stone upon the path, and naught but light is scribed upon your heart. Sign your love letter with no regrets, a sweeping signature of time well spent, for that is the gift of the words you breathe, to experience it all, yet in faith believe.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you, Paul.
Beautiful. And does that naturally just flow through you then? Do you get that inspired in moments, or is that just...
No, it usually happens when I write something like that. It's just bang, it's there. I don't cross anything out. It's just there. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's something I wish I could do.
And that's a very simple piece of writing. But what I found lately, there's sometimes the more simple it is, the more the general people can actually, that perhaps might even like poetry, might take on something from that.
Yeah. So before you go, what's next for you?
Right. Okay. Well, I do run workshops. I ran women's circles many years ago, but as I moved into more of that public place with mediumship, I've run a number of workshops. COVID will put a stop to that for a while, but I'm back teaching workshops here in Dubbo. They are one-to-one, which is beautiful to be able to teach in that space and to feel the energy in the room. And I have got a workshop coming up on the 27th of this month. I've actually chosen it on a Sunday. It just allows for those at work and have, you know, commitments around sport on the Saturday to attend. And that'll be from 9:30 to 4:30 p.m. On August the 27th here at a local Red Earth Healing, which is has a meditation space upstairs. So if there's anyone from Dubbo or in surrounding areas, and I realise a lot of our listeners are somewhere else, but I also do know that a lot of people may tune in and watch this in the future, that just drop me a line or message me or email me at daynalouise@outlook.com.au.
And are you on Facebook as well?
I am Facebook, Dayna Louise She, SHE, which just stands for Soul Healing Energy, and the same on Instagram. So you can contact me on Messenger. I always get back to anyone that checks in with me on Messenger.
Yeah. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming in this time in the morning.
It's been a pleasure, Paul. It's went in all different places that I didn't expect.
Yeah, we did.
It's been enjoyable.
We did. It
And
really
thank you
has.
to lovely listeners as well for your questions. It was really food for thought and moved my mind at this early hour.
We've been getting some lovely feedback, people saying thank you and how inspired it was and how much they loved it. So we can't thank you enough. Always. And we wish you all the best. I'm sure we'll come across each other in the future, especially with those dream interpretations.
No problems. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm just gonna, you broke up there, Richard. I can't quite hear what you're saying. Are we still live? So we're gonna, we can do a message actually. We've got about 10 minutes, haven't we? We can do a message. Yeah, great. We'll just go to the adverts, guys, and we'll come back. We might have enough time to do a quick message. That'll be really good if you can stick around, 1 or 2 messages. That'll be brilliant.
Am I off, Paul? Can I?
Yeah, you're about to go. We're about to go to adverts, and we'll say goodbye to you.
Okay. Oh, okay. I don't leave.
Spiritual Psychics TV presents a wonderful evening of mediumship and trance. Our evening is hosted by Nick Brown with guests Bill Hughes, Glenda Marie, David Hale, and Minty May. Our exciting event is being held at the Little Port Village Hall, which is in Ely. The date for our magical showcase is Saturday the 9th of September. The price is only £10, which includes refreshments. For ticket information, please visit myspiritualevents.com.
Are you planning a paid spiritual event or looking for something to do this weekend? Then visit myspiritualevents.com. You can browse the listing, view the event details, watch a YouTube clip, look at a mini gallery, select dates and times, pay for tickets using PayPal or your debit card. Organizers can register for free and start selling tickets within minutes, be it for their online or in-person spiritual event. As an organizer, you will have access to your own admin dashboard, which will display information such as your income and your bookings, all in a simple and user-friendly display. It's free to use. Join and upgrade to an organizer. Come and visit us at myspiritualevents.com.
Tonight from 8 p.m, Bill Hughes and his guest will be demonstrating their mediumship abilities with free readings to our viewers. Join Debbie Romero and guests tomorrow from 6 p.m, offering spiritual guidance, support and readings. Tomorrow night from 8 p.m, Marcus Lapser joins us for an evening of mediumship readings and development.
Hi guys, it's great to be back. We have got some time for a couple of messages, so just let us know if you'd like a message. Just let us know you're there, and I'm going to connect and bring the two worlds together and hopefully bring some love and share the love with you guys. And Stephanie Louise Barnett has put yes please. So's Kathy. Hi Kathy. Okay, so I'm just going to connect and see who comes through. And I haven't actually, I've been on holiday for 10 days in Spain. So this is my first mediumship. I've had a lovely break. So it'll be lovely to get back on it, as they say. And I'm just going to go from there. I feel, okay, I want to go back potentially to Barbara. Okay, I know, I feel I have, okay. I've got, I believe, but hi, Barbara. Just all I ask, guys, is if you can be quick on the keyboard, so I'm not going, as Dayna said, going down a rabbit hole. I'm going to bring through spirit. I believe I'm connecting to you, Barbara. I've got two people that are coming close to me at this time from the spirit world. I believe I have mum and dad in the spirit world. Also, okay, thank you. I know, potentially three. So this could be an interesting message. Three people coming in from the spirit world. I believe there's a grandfather as well in the spirit world for you. Also, hi, Barbara. Would you understand mum in the spirit world, Barbara? Also, there's been someone taking professional photographs as well of family, and someone looking at pictures because she's talking about them. She's also trying to give me the name Peter as well, that connects to the family. Also, I've just literally heard Duffy as well, so I know this is definitely for you, Barbara. And she's also, would you understand? She's also trying to give me the Irish connection. Mum is also trying to give me the Irish connection as well. There's also, she's trying to give me the name John as well. It's in the family. Also, I believe that John was Jack. She wants to come through at this particular time because there's been some kind of accident or incident around the home. Someone's had a fall. Do you understand this, Barbara? There's been something going on around this. There's also talk about there being, you're very much, yeah, mum, not mum, but grandmother, been practicing photo readings. Interesting, because the other thing I'm very much aware of is the Victorian aspect of this lady. There's a real sense of Victorian photos and pictures that we talked about earlier. Can take the John. Okay, do you understand the Irish connection as well that she's given me? There's at least three of them there. Now I know there's a grandfather there, but it also feels like a father figure as well. Yes, she's put, okay, I'm just going to keep going. Also, I know one of them would have served in the military, because one of the gentlemen here, there's two here, is showing me his medals as well. I'm very proud of his service in the military. Also, I know that he had a problem, some kind of fever, an issue with a fever. Oh, that's interesting. So, he's talking about somebody in the family that had like flu-like conditions. I'm Irish. Okay, thank you. Flu-like conditions before they passed, and he's talking about that. Also, dad. I keep hearing dad as well. You'd understand dad in the spirit world, and I keep hearing that John is connected to dad on dad's side. Do you understand this, Barbara? And I'm really quite excited because there is some kind of energy around the home, but there was somebody that had the fall as well, because I keep seeing two things. There's something on a stone floor that's in a hallway. There's this energy there that I believe, I don't know why, you'd probably understand this if you're starting to do your own readings, potentially a doorway potentially, but they're talking about this energy around that part of the home. Do you understand this, Barbara? Okay, also, this lady, I can't take this away. She gives me an enormous sense of being like a mother, and being trying to wrap you up. Okay, yes, John is my dad's father, and my mum fell last night on steps. Oh, I'm so sorry. But I know we had the fall, but there's also talk about in the hallway. There's a lot of psychic energy within the hallway. And I believe somebody is working within the home. There's some kind of psychic energy around that. And I wouldn't be surprised the message that I'm getting, it would interfere with the electrics or the electric in and around that area. Also, there's also somebody in the family that was a medium as well. That wasn't just, I know you said you're practicing yourself. There was somebody else in the family that was into mediumship, but we're going back again at least 2 generations with this, because I'm seeing old-fashioned seance type readings. There is a real enormous sense of family and community. I am doing a mediumship course. Yes, you said earlier. Thank you for that. But there is somebody else in the family, because she's talking about it. There would have been a medium, but going back in the day with seances, and to the point where it was almost physical. Would you understand that? Also, would you understand what sounded like the name Jean she's trying to give me? And oh gosh, and it sounds a bit like Maguire or McIntyre. I'm so sorry, I can't formulate that. I'm trying to formulate the surname. She's trying to give me the Mac something surnames. I do love bringing names through because it really cements the connection for me. Okay, thank you. Okay. And she just, I don't know why, she's just giving you a beautiful sunflower. This is to cheer you up. This sunflower is symbolic. This is more than just being cliche about this in terms of ray of sunshine, but it really is about this energy that she brings through to you. She's bringing this joy and a real sense of love and healing from her side. Okay. Okay, well, you'd understand the William as well. She talks about the William walking away from the family. Okay, she's talking about William walking away from the family. But okay, thank you. And also there was a gentleman that never came home, and I believe that was from some kind of conflict. I don't remember anyone in the family previously doing psychic work. Well, I don't know why she keeps showing me. Can you find out for me, please? Because it's historical, and I'm seeing like the old-fashioned tablecloth on the table, table tipping, that kind of work that's going on that she's given me the impression of. It's more than just you doing a mediumship course. She's talking about this being historic. There's other people in the family. Oh gosh. And do you understand what she's talking about? The William walking away from the family, the William walking away. I also know it would have been the known as Bill rather than just William. Just talking about that. Okay. There's somebody here actually that's struggling with their temperature as well, and regulating their temperature, because she brings that energy into me as well. Somebody really isn't very well at this moment in time. If that's mum, fine, because I know you said mum had a fall yesterday, but she's talking about that. Okay, again, just want to bring you all the love in the world. Now I'm going to leave their love with you, because I kind of feels like there's a collective, at least 3 people coming in the spirit world from you. There was a Bill. Okay, there is a story here about Bill walking away from the family and being separated from the family. I know it was a happy ending because she talks about it. Okay, I just want to leave her love with you. I'm going to see how many messages I can do before Richard shuts me down and kicks me off, because we got the great Bill Hughes coming up next, and don't miss that. Always worth seeing. So guys, if you would like a message, let me know. I'm just going to leave all their love with you, Barbara, especially at this time if your mum's just had a fall. That was one of the first things they were trying to take my mind to. And I hope that was okay. So if you'd like a message, guys, let me know. Just say hi, let me know, and I'll see if I'm connecting to you, and I'll see who's coming through. Michelle Oliver, I really love a message. Hi, Michelle. Good to see you. Hi, Amy. Okay, right, thank you. Me, please. Okay. Well, I've got a gentleman just barged in without even me connecting to someone, so I'm hoping I'm going to get the right person here. Okay, Donna, I might stop at Donna. Can you just stop at Donna for a second? Would you understand a gentleman died on a motorbike, Donna? Had a motorbike, would have ride a motorbike. I know he would have died at a fairly young age. He's talking about passing way before his time. I also, there's somebody, me please, thank you. Okay. Okay, Donna, I'm going to stay with you. Do you understand the gentleman that had the motorbike accident? He was a young man, fairly young man. I want to say, I've just said young man, he's just given me 42. So he's not that young, but I literally just put 42 in front of my vision. Do you understand the gentleman that would have passed at the age or around the age of 42? I'm going to keep on talking. Hopefully you're quick on those buttons. Sometimes with Facebook it's a bit of a pain because it's a bit of a delay, so I'm sorry. No, okay, she can't take the motorbike, but I've got this gentleman here. He definitely would have had a motorbike, okay, and I definitely would have passed around. No car, but No, car, but not. Okay, interesting. Yes, Mo. Okay, yes, died young. Okay, thank you, Mo. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. Sorry, Donna. I can't stop who's coming in. This is for me. Yes, 42. Okay, brilliant. Okay, first of all, first thing he wants to say that he is so sorry for the way he passed and the shock of his passing. Okay, and there's a real sense, although he was 42, he still gives me this sense he was 21, that he was full of life and he was active and he was always on the go. The other thing, he's also talking about compartmentalizing everything. He had a way and an order of doing things, and it was his way or no way. It was also, in his own way, a really well educated man of life, so to speak, not through university. Okay. Okay, it was a shock, full of life, absolutely. He's also talking about, it just keeps apologizing for this sense of that trauma that this caused. But there's also this sense of him having he teacher and wise, absolutely. But he had these moments where he just had to check out and have space for himself. And yes, always traveling, absolutely. He would just take himself off and just to get into that space for himself. He was a people person. Okay. Also, okay. Okay, he's trying to give me what sounds like Dawn. I'm sorry if I've got that name wrong, but he's trying to give me what sounds like the name Dawn. I'm not afraid to give names. Like I said to you, I do enjoy giving names because it's the icing on the cake. There's another name. Okay, he's trying to give me what sounds like Debbie as well. I also know there's somebody coming up for exams as well. He's talking about a young lady that's coming up for exams or just passed their exams. He's talking about it. Okay, also, and I believe that's a niece. He was loved by all, loved his own space. Absolutely. Would you understand, though, he had some complex ideas? He's given that. Yes, people, person. Thank you, Mo. This guy also what is trying to impress upon this real sense of generosity for other people as well. And that's one of the things he talks about in terms of leaving a legacy, that he wants to be remembered and thinking of him. Thinking as I'm in Spain and it was his last holiday they're here too. Oh, okay, interesting. I've just come back from Spain, so it's probably why he's connected with Mo. And it's very hot out there at the moment. It's supposed to be 40-odd degrees, so I hope you're in the shade. This guy, again, just giving me this sense and laughter. Yes, niece, she just did A levels. He's so proud of her. So proud of her. Also, okay, he's given me a pearl, and he's given it to you. I know you meant a lot to him. Okay, this is symbolic. Very hot. You're very hot indeed. Absolutely. And okay, just he's drinking. He's raising a glass to you. He's raising a glass to you. This gentleman really impressing upon me about the legacy he left, but his personality. He's exactly the same going into that spirit world. There's nothing else, nothing about him that's changed. He's still this larger than life character. There is two sides to him, though, like we said about wanting his own space. Great sense of fun and laughter. Thank you, Mo. Please take his love. There's also somebody that's been to the actual place of accident and laid flowers. You'd understand that. Thanks, Steve. Reference Paul. And yeah, would have laid flowers as well. And I know there were, I know there was primrose nearby. I'm not sure if that was the actual time of passing, but he's given me primroses at the side of the road. I hope that makes sense, Mo. Also, again, he's asking you to fly. He's talking about you having a new lease of life and having a second part to your life that's really going to be quite exciting. I asked somebody today to raise a glass to him when he got to Madrid. Beautiful. But he really is telling me about this opportunity that you have of having this second part to your life that you didn't know you was going to have. I hope that makes sense, because again, he comes through this enormous sense of pride. enormous sense of pride. He's also making me aware of another gentleman that really would have been quite thick set gentleman comes in alongside him. I also believe there's a Yorkshire connection to this gentleman as well. Okay, thank you. You'd understand the gentleman that had some sort of this gentleman had some sort of neurological condition. I'm not sure if it was a stroke or a tumor, but he's talking about that. Yes, reference New Lisa. Like, thank you, Mo. It's really great when we get your input back, because it really helps us to bring that energy and bring that energy through, that we're not going off on a tangent, so to speak. And it can be easily done if you're not connecting with the person. But there's another gentleman coming in with him. And I know this gentleman had a neurological condition. I'm not sure if this is, I know it's an elderly gentleman that comes in, but he would have been quite a big man. Yes, Uncle John. Okay, thank you. I'm going to leave both of their love with you, Mo. I know it sounds a strange thing to say coming from two guys, that probably the way they're talking, they didn't really communicate it in that way, but they are just full of love for you and family, thinking of him in Spain. Okay, please take his love. He is there with you in Spain. And I hope that was okay. Thank you for working with me, Mo, and taking this lovely gentleman. Okay, I'm just gonna, should we try for one? Is that it? We've run out of time. Yeah. So guys, thank you for joining us tonight. We are back in 2 weeks with the wonderful, do you know what? It's just gone out of my head. I'm terrible. And it's because I've been working with spirit. And I did say this earlier. I struggle to talk properly. Sorry, and Richard's even telling me and I can't hear him. I'm so sorry. Yes, okay. But we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, guys. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see you again. We'll have another great guest. And stay tuned, because Bill's coming up very soon at 8 o'clock. And I will see everybody very, very soon.